I joined FSR in May 2016. I was working at a French consultancy 2015, just out of grad school. And then I met Jean-Michel Glachant on a train in Paris, just randomly. But I did recognize him because he's hard not to recognize, and especially if you know the sector a bit, then you'll know him. So I went to him and I started talking with him just to have a chat because I was interested in what he had to say. And well, to be really short, about 8 months later I arrived in Florence. So that was how I got here. And why? Because I was always interested in academia to some extent, and I wanted to do a PhD, or I was doubting of doing a PhD. And what they then offered me at the time, together with Leo, who was already there, Leonardo Meus, was to do a PhD while working for FSR, which I think was a combination that worked out great. So I think FSR helped me a lot in my career because it's a very special place. Like when I started FSR, I started a PhD, but it's very different from a, let's call it, regular university, without meaning it in a bad way. Because it's really a place where academics, policymakers, practitioners meet, which means things like when you do academic research at FSR, it's really working on things that are actually directly relevant for the regulatory and policy discussion tomorrow. So you're really close to what really is going on. So the answers you try to provide are also of direct relevance of the policymakers and regulators, which makes it exciting because you can really talk with them and discuss with them and be at the edge of knowledge. I mean, what it also means that it means you're probably not going to do the very deep theoretical academic work. That's something that maybe regular universities do more. But we try to apply really rigorous academic methods and models and methodologies to very specific problems that regulators, especially regulators, are facing today. What I think for me was complicated in the beginning is that FSR is really good at doing online stuff. So that was really challenging to adjust to because it's not so easy in the beginning. It's very different to do a lecture or a presentation online than it is in person. And we were doing that before the COVID crisis, which actually gave us a huge comparative advantage when the COVID actually happened because we knew how to do it. And it's very different. In terms of successes, I think the thing that I'm mostly proud of is the course we have built on electricity markets in Europe, which has gone on now for 8 years or something. It started as network codes, EU network codes, not the most sexy name. So we decided to call it now EU electricity markets because it's more than network codes. And this is every year 100 people or more are actually taking this online course. I just spent 2 years in the US at MIT. And MIT is a different place. It's a huge place, but FSR is still is special in the sense that I was looking for it, but there's no real US equivalent that I found. Where really is a place where, as I said before, where practitioners, regulators, policymakers, academics, they all come together and discuss things that are pan-European. It's not one national idea or one state. It's not only academics or it's only regulators. It's really a place where people meet, which means we learn a lot, especially as academics, to pick up the right topics and the right problems. But 20 years is a long time. First of all, I hope that they continue doing what they're doing. Second is the school always works in waves. That was been told me, like a couple of years where many researchers come, many staff come, many projects, and then a couple of years more calm. So I hope for, let's say, a next even bigger wave where we can again work very close to the Commission and have a sort of project where we look at the different angles for longer term to really support policymakers close. What I also hope is that the school can continue its expansion across the globe, having FSRs in other parts of the world, which I think is very exciting and necessary.